2021, all of the speakers and all of the audience watching VCTV. This is the new year. Finally, we entered another season of VCTV, the Venture Capital TV from LATOKEN. So fantastic to see a lot of speakers today. And I'm going to discuss a very new topic on the panel today. It's about legal, technology, investments, trends, and much more coming up for the year. This is the second show of VCTV for Asia. I'm myself, Sunny Mohanty. I'm the regional director of LATOKEN. I'm based here in Singapore. I host VCTV every day, Monday to Friday, 8 p.m. Singapore. And audience, speakers, startups, founders, welcome back on VCTV. Fantastic. So today I've been surrounded by all the lawyers, and just one Gary, who is not a lawyer, but everybody else is a lawyer and a VC as well, and an investor as well. That's fantastic. That's cool. So great. I have got some new speakers today joining me and some regular speakers like Gary, who is on the panel there almost every day. And he just finished up a panel with my colleague, Terence, and he's back here again, Gary. And welcome back, all the speakers. Amazing. We have got everyone here. I'm going to start with the new speakers who've joined us today. Nicola and Shivam. Nicola from Switzerland and Shivam from Delhi, India. Nicola, please start introducing yourself and the company you represent. Today, we're talking about legal tech. I know you've made some investments in other crypto assets, but we try to focus on legal tech. Nicola, over to you, please, with introductions. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonny, for having me here. So I work in Switzerland. I work for Storm Partners. We are an all-in-one solution provider within the crypto space. Myself, of course, as a lawyer, I provide legal services. Let's say we also provide services in other areas such as marketing, business development, investor relations. We assist mainly businesses doing token offerings, but not only like this, also other businesses related to the crypto industry.
Okay, fantastic, Nicola. Thank you and welcome to VCTV. Next up, Shivam. Hi, Shivam. Welcome to VCTV. Can you help us introduce yourself, please, to our audience? Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting me, Sonny, and Happy New Year to all the listeners and to my fellow panelists.
Happy New Year.
I am an India qualified lawyer, and I've worked at a couple of law firms where I advised on M&A transactions and then PE and VC transactions, and then I actually transitioned into venture capital and work at India-focused early-stage VC called Ankur Capital. So we look at technology and innovation that would unlock opportunities for the next billion users in India.
Okay, fantastic. And welcome to VCTV, Shivam. I have Sahil again joining us back after a long time. Sahil, welcome to VCTV. How have you been? And please introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Sony, for inviting me again. That too, at such a short notice. I was actually traveling yesterday when you messaged me. But nevertheless, I'm very happy to see fellow panelists, someone like Julia, who is an accomplished legal professional, not just in Hong Kong, but in Southeast Asia. And of course, Gary, and, goes without saying yourself. So I'm here in my capacity as general partner and COO Asia of Dragon's Vault. It's a unique investment fund, if I can put it that way. So we are making investment into crypto assets, stable coins, altcoins, and we are also investing into entrepreneurs. We have made offers to 3, and we are expecting to finalize one of them in next 1 or 2 weeks. Currently, we have got around 230% return, courtesy of Ethereum raising to its new highs and altcoins ever since we got incorporated in September 2020. So yes.
Okay, great. That's a good news, Sahil, and welcome back on VCTV.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Next up, Shrikant. Even Shrikant, you joining us after a while. How are you? Happy New Year.
Very happy New Year. Nice to see all of you again, and looking forward.
Okay. Can you please introduce yourself to our audience and other speakers on the panel, please?
Dr. Shrikant Patsarthi. I'm an M&A advisor, so to speak. Right. I'm also a lawyer. I practice at the High Court as well as the Supreme Court.
Oh, wow, that's great. And welcome back on VCTV. Thank you, Shrikant. Julia, welcome back. It
Thank
felt
you.
like yesterday we were having a chat.
Yeah, thank you, Sonny. Lovely to see everybody. Happy New Year. I'm a lawyer in Hong Kong. I'm qualified in England and Wales and also in Hong Kong. I work on a lot of crypto type offerings. I've been advising on the setting up of various crypto exchanges. I also do a lot of work on IPOs in Hong Kong, but I also am the managing partner of my law firm. So I'm constantly looking at ways to introduce technology to my own firm as well. So, and obviously making investments as well. So it's a subject which is incredibly dear to my heart, from the point of view of service delivery to clients, as well as helping clients who are actually developing legal tech themselves. I also work very closely with a law firm in China. We have a formal association in Jiangsu province, and they've actually have a whole unit which is only devoted to developing legal AI. So it's growing by leaps and bounds in China as well, I think. Yeah.
Great. You have got a use case there. So law firms, a consumer of legal tech. We have Julia, who just announced it right there. Thank you so much, Julia, and welcome. Welcome back on VCTV. Last but not least, Gary. Hi, Gary. How are you? How's Florida?
Well, Florida is great, but I want to go back to California. The challenges. I've been down here since March, and
Right.
I miss California, so I miss Silicon Valley. So now things are good, really good. It's early in the
Great.
morning. It's great to wake up to VCTV.
Fantastic, isn't it? Year 2021. Here we go. We are on VCTV, the VCTV family, right?
Amazing. So my name's Gary Fowler, and it's great to see everybody here today. I just was on a panel with Shrikant earlier, so it's good to see him again. Anyhow, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've done 17 companies. I've been involved in 2 unicorns. I was on the original management team of Click Software, sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion. I'm also the co-founder of Viva, which is, I started with a billionaire from Russia, David Yang, actually Armenian, Chinese, Russian billionaire who lives in Silicon Valley. It's nearly $1 billion company today. It's AI for workforce management. I love artificial intelligence. I'm also the CEO, president, co-founder of GSD, Get Shit Done Venture Studios. We're premier AI venture studios curating companies from around the world, Africa, Australia, Singapore, India, Germany, everywhere, and using Silicon Valley as a port and, breeding those companies, unicorn breeding those companies. So I've been in Silicon Valley over 33 years. So got a lot of contacts, and I write a lot. I've written now 107 articles in the last year, and I'm just ready to start publishing on the teleportation of quantum particles. So that's my next series in the quantum internet.
Wow, 101 articles from Gary. Amazing.
107 now today.
Oh, did I miss that? 107
I think
articles.
you were thinking about
my
the 101
apologies.
Dalmatians.
Oh, 107 articles, guys. I mean, fantastic. So we all set with introductions of our speakers, VCTV Legal Tech panel. So legal tech is going to be discussed for the very first time on my panel. So let's start by defining what is legal tech. I'm going to start with Shivam, who also write articles on legal tech. Shivam, let's start giving a perspective idea about what is legal tech exactly mean to a user. Thank you. Yeah.
So how I understand legal tech, and I think the idea is to leave the definition as broad as possible, to not get too muddled up in what the definition of legal tech is. So, very, very broad and not limiting at all. So how I look at it is, anything that assists or supports lawyers and legal professionals in their workings, deliver legal services. So, that is definitely legal tech. But not just that, I think even beyond that, I think anything that helps, the common man, the user, get access to legal services, that is also legal tech. So, a simple platform where you discover lawyers and, you can engage with them. I think that is also legal technology. So, how I understand the term is very, very broad, and would love to hear, what the other panelists.
It's okay, Shivam, to start with a broad understanding of what legal tech is. I'm going to jump directly into Julia, who just opened up a use case for us. Julia, how would you see what is legal tech? We've spoken about health tech, fintech, all those. Fintech is quite popular among all of them. What is legal tech?
So I totally agree with Shivam. We don't want to make it too narrow a definition, because it's really the application of technology to all forms of legal services. So that's artificial intelligence for due diligence, document review, contract evaluation. It's the formation of contracts by technology, whether by smart contracts or by document signing technology, for example. There's a document drafting. I mean, that's actually been around for a long time in various formats, that you simply fill in the names and the parameters of an agreement and it will automatically produce an agreement. So that type of technology has actually been around for quite a long time. But what I think is that it probably has that's the sort of application of technology to legal services as we currently conceive them. And what I've been thinking about a lot recently is on blockchain, you could not only, I've talked to a number of law firms about doing this together, although it hasn't really got off the ground yet in Hong Kong, is actually creating blockchain sharing platforms for sharing documents. And perhaps if a number of law firms validate a document on the blockchain, it would then become an accepted form of document, an accepted form of precedent. And also in the same way that cryptocurrency is created through the trust mechanisms of being confirmed by multiple parties on a blockchain, you could imagine a whole legal system, a set of laws being created in the same way. It doesn't have to be a government that promulgates laws, just like a government promulgates a fiat currency. It could actually be a blockchain created legal system. And similarly with, it could have dispute resolution, a form of arbitration and sort of quasi court mechanism within that. Now, nobody, as I know, is actually embarked on that, but I could see that as being actually, taking it all one step further and not simply applying technology to the existing practice of law, which is all very helpful and money saving and labor saving, etc., but also taking law into a different sphere.
Right. So great start, Julia. I'd like to ask Sahil, what are the challenges that faced by lawyers or legal firms, and how technology comes into play over there? Aren't you connect with that question a little bit? Sahil, over to you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also a lawyer by background, and I've seen the days where, we would record the transcript for our secretaries to type to. So that was also legal tech, but yes, it was in primitive stage. Then came, word to speech softwares or speech to word softwares. That was also legal tech. And as Julia rightly pointed out, legal tech has been evolving. It's not just about e-discovery or due diligence or document automation or document generation or creation. For instance, when we were studying law, we were probably, copying things from Richard Christou's drafting commercial agreements or using the templates provided by Tolly. These days, for instance, there are ventures and startups. There is one in Hong Kong, by the way, Zeagle. Yeah. So Zeagle, Zeagle is doing the same thing out there. I think it was Dragon's Law earlier. They changed their name later. So yes, Zeagle is doing that. And in the UK, it's Seed Legals. Seed Legals is also doing that. The only challenges which I feel sometimes are, for instance, document signing is fine. These days, notarization can also be done electronically, but not at all places. So in cross-border transactions, which would require execution formalities, that is something which needs to be looked into.
Okay. Yeah, talking about Zeagle in Hong Kong and Dragons, whatever you said, I think I met the team like 2 years back, and they were moving all those contracts into a blockchain. And back then, like 2 years back, I was like confused how can you replace the lawyers? That was a big question back then. But yes, good point and good sort of reminder, Sahil. Shrikant, because I remember from the past sessions we had, that you mentioned that you were having court sessions in India were happening over Zoom. So that's basically a different paradigm shift, a digital transformation happening when you, because of the lockdown, you couldn't go to the court. So what has changed since then? We spoke about that, and how has technology helped you sail through this pandemic?
I believe even Harish Savik, spoke about this. I mean, in the morning you could attend a hearing in Gujarat High Court. In the evening, or half an hour later, you could be at the NCLT, and half an hour later you could be at the Madhya Pradesh Court and the Delhi High Court, and so on and so forth. I think it gives ample opportunities to legal professionals to appear before these forums. To me, the interesting part, while legal tech is something that we talk about, we have been talking about for the past 5 years. I mean, technology, it really affected legal industry a lot, right? I mean, if you see the books behind me, a lot of these could be summarized in a website slash in a mobile application which I could search. I do not go to the books anymore. So to me, the real legal tech would be the tech which will enable, probably jurisprudence is what we use in the legal world, to think logically and to arrive at application of law. That would be the real legal tech. So I'm really looking forward to AI delivering judgments based on facts presented to it or the facts not presented to it, because that's one thing that instinctively that we can't take away from humans is the ability to judge. To me that is, most of my fellow panelists are lawyers over here. You can agree with me on that particular point, which is, while technology can affect the legal world, it can't really affect the judicial or the equity principle that we apply to the legal world.
Right, that's a great start, Shrikant, where the judgments are made by AI technology. Okay, great. Thank you, Shrikant, over there. Next, I have Nicola. Hi, Nicola. What's the opening remarks? You've been a lawyer, now a part of a sort of crypto firm as well, into ICO, STOs, and fundraising in crypto space. So, what's your opening remarks for the topic today, Nicola?
So I would like to start to something that Julia said earlier. Regarding the fact that there could be a possibility to build a blockchain solution for dispute resolution. And actually, I know one. In Switzerland, there is this JAR. They do pretty much this thing through arbitration agreements. They built it up, this platform, which is quite interesting. I actually never used it, so I cannot give a proper review. But the purpose of the project is probably to create a contract platform and even a dispute resolution platform for the contracts that are created on the platform. In my opinion, legal tech now is really going forward, and there are major progresses. I agree with the fact that, for example, having a digitalization of jurisprudence and of these dispute resolution mechanisms could really help in order to reduce the time of legal decision, which of course in many jurisdictions is a problem, and also to give much certainty also with regard to international dispute resolution.
Okay, great. Thank you, Nicola. Thanks for those insights. Last but not least, I have Gary. Hi, Gary. What are your opening remarks about the topic today?
Well, I mean, so think about what's happened, since March of last year. It's incredible. I mean, we've gone through this digital transformation. So the real democratization opportunity. So it doesn't matter where you are as a lawyer. It really matters having the capability of a Zoom, for instance, to be able to attend events or hearings anywhere at any time. So, and it's not because we want to do it, it's because we've been forced to have to do it. So it's a little bit different. And think about this incredible world we're in. Companies like Luminous, companies that can go down through and do the research to be able to look through language, document search, and analyze, spot abnormalities in documents. I mean, a lot of it has been as the lawyers, and I've dealt with a lot of lawyers over the years, and but a lot of it is being able to aggregate the information. Imagine having the capability that a document like a company like Ravel Law that can find all relevant documents, similar cases, attorneys, and make predictions on a judge's decision. I mean, this is where artificial intelligence is really coming into play. So if we look at it, imagine now consortiums of being able to, pick out, I need a particular lawyer for a particular area, and then setting up the call with that attorney to be able to answer that question. I mean, and this is revolutionizing everything, medicine, legal, etc., finding the best opinions from the best attorneys at the right time when you need it. So I'm excited, and some of the things that we've worked on directly, my partner is David Yang. David started Abby, a document management company. But imagine having the capability to be able to have unsupervised artificial intelligence to be able to assist attorneys in writing the documents in the style of, right? And pulling all that information from everywhere, putting it in a particular opinion or a particular document. So that's where this starts getting real interesting. And then having technologies, the AI that can actually look through the documents to look for abnormalities, where there's holes, where things need to be addressed. So I'm excited about it. It's about taking that information beyond a management, making some decisions, having a legal assistant, a real, legal assistant to be able to help you make better decisions.
Absolutely. It's AI all the way. Thank you, Gary, for those remarks. And thank you so much. Next, I'd like to know about investments made in the space. I'm going to start with Shivam because he's now flipped from being a lawyer to a VC firm representative, Shivam. So Shivam, let's talk about investments that were made by yourself or by your firm in 2020.
So Ankur Capital, is a sector agnostic fund. So, we look at legal tech solutions, but what we usually struggle with is, the reach of these solutions. And I know that, a lot of us have been speaking about, artificial intelligence, but what actually I think drives a lot of, intelligent software solutions currently is essentially machine learning. So, when we're looking at investments in the space, often, the parallel that we make and the parameters that we use, you can draw sort of an analogy to healthcare, right? So I think, in healthcare, how, somebody comes in, what the holy grail is. The gold standard is you want to improve, patient outcome. Similarly, in legal tech, there are so many issues, right? So just take the case of India, for instance. There are almost, 40 million pending cases in the courts. So I think right now we are at the level of technology where, we need to be solving real problems. There has to be, an impact on the consumer level. More and more people, as you mentioned, Sonny, this is your first session on legal tech. So I think the first step is awareness. That people need to understand, people need to be aware of what legal tech is. There has to be, direct impact, direct correlation with the people who need these legal services. So I think, there have been investments in India recently. We are seeing the sector take off. But I think, to Srikant's point, I think, where we see AI judges, writing up parts of judgments, I think we are very far from that.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Shivam, for that, those insights. Next, Sahil, over to you. Sahil, over to you. Not Sahil, sorry. Sahil, over to you.
No issues. So, we have been looking at various ventures, and legal tech was actually discussed at one of our investment management committee meetings. And during that meeting, we thought of going into legal tech in three separate directions. First direction was legal tech, which is aimed towards helping, public at large. That would be the first stakeholder. That would be the first category of legal tech ventures. Second category would be ventures who are making lives of law firms or legal services providers or individual lawyers easy. Third would be judiciary, and fourth, as Julia had rightly pointed out, would be for governance and legislature. For instance, in first one, there could be a venture, and I can't recall the name of that venture. We didn't, we are looking for ventures like that, to be honest. So the venture, for instance, if whenever you are creating an account on, let's say, Facebook, or you are downloading WhatsApp, or you are using any mobile app or any software, at that time, you are bombarded, a public a layman is actually bombarded with huge terms and conditions. So that venture, can't recall the name though, actually simplifies. It simplifies the terms and conditions into pretty basic general English instead of using all those legal jargons, which
I
I
agree.
feel would be a very good investment opportunity. And it is aimed towards public. It is not aimed towards legal services providers or corporates or government or legislature. So that is the first category, which we decided that this category would actually end up yielding more results or better results than going for the category wherein legal tech ventures are providing services or developing solutions for law firms. Because after a few years, those solutions will become, some of them will become free source, some of them will get licensed at discounted prices, etc. So this is what we have been thinking, and there is one venture whom we are currently doing due diligence on. So what they do is they prepare taxation solutions. So everything is automated there for people who are investing in cryptocurrencies or who have made huge gains or huge losses in cryptocurrencies, including stable coins, altcoins, and everything. So that is the venture we are currently reviewing. I can't disclose more details because of that being in under an NDA.
Confidentiality. I understand that. Thank you, Sahil, for this sharing those insights. Next, I have Nicola. Nicola, recent investments that you've made that you can share with your audience and other speakers, please.
Yeah, so a really interesting company actually is a token. So the token is Seed, is listed on an exchange called The Rock Trading, and from my understanding is going to be listed on more exchanges. This token is related to a tokenization platform, a fully decentralized tokenization platform, which in my opinion is quite interesting. Because in Switzerland, but all over Europe, I see this problem for basically companies or startups to fundraise. There now, this sector regarding equity crowdfunding is quite expanding, but the problem with equity crowdfunding is that it is illiquid. I mean, you participate into a campaign of equity crowdfunding, you have this share of the company, but you cannot sell it. You have this share, and your only possibility of turning it into money is that the company in 5 years will be listed on an exchange, on a security exchange. But with this kind of platform, this is full decentralized. You can perform basically an equity crowdfunding campaign, awarding the participants with tokens, and then they can share the tokens because it's basically a decentralized trading venue. There is no central authority, and also there is no requirements for the trading venue itself. It's really a revolution for financial markets law, because usually financial markets law provide a lot of regulation for market infrastructure. Here, the market infrastructure is fully decentralized. Another interesting project regarding decentralized finance is Aave. It's basically a lending crowdfunding platform in which you participate, you lend, or of course on the other side you can borrow, and you can earn an interest. Is fully open source, fully decentralized. They are not even custodians. They basically do only, as intermediaries, they do the matching between demand and offer.
Right.
And so these two projects, in my opinion, are really interesting.
Yes, interesting. And Aave, by the way, is listed on our exchange, LATOKEN. So good sharing there, Nicola, about blockchain technology, decentralized ledger, and decentralizing everything, the platform as well when it comes to investments. Great. Now I have Shrikant. Over to you, Shrikant. Can you share with us kind of recent the investments that you've seen in this illegal startup space in India?
See, legal startups, I don't know whether they even qualify as an industry, because there's a lot of technology companies which can perform certain legal, which can give legal outcomes as well, right? For example, there was a company called, in India, I can give you a company called India Filings. There was a company called, various other companies which used to which used to work on an aggregator model. So it need not apply to legal industry as such. And then you have virtual assistants who kind of help you draft and so on and so forth. And then you have search engines. So I don't know if legal tech really exists as a separate industry. It exists in bits and pieces in every industry. For example, the new trend which is picking up is something called due diligence, and I'm just going to add on to what Shivam just said. Which is about jurisprudence coming in through AI or ML. I completely agree. It's not been far away. It's behind. It's I can't even visualize that kind of situation anywhere in India. Be it arbitration or be it actual judiciary. So that being said, legal tech exists in bits and pieces. So I was continuing my thought on due diligence. Now, due diligence has been, there's a lot of automation that has come in. You plug in you pull in certain data from a particular source, and an automated due diligence or a financial due diligence report comes in. Again, it can only help to an extent. It is only technology, right? I mean, so I don't know if legal tech really is legal tech. It is tech. It is, and it happens to be legal. That's all.
Yes, exactly. I mean, Shrikant, thank you for those insights. Julia, you see a lot of startups from a lawyer perspective, from a legal firm. Do you also see a lot of startups in the legal tech space? Because it seems like that space doesn't exist yet.
In Hong Kong, maybe not quite so much, just absolutely aimed, although somebody did mention Zeagle, which I think is also Singapore based. I think Hong Kong is a relatively small legal market. So I think if someone was going to actually tap legal markets, they would go across wider legal markets than just Hong Kong. Like the US is clearly the biggest market. And I mean, we know that the legal tech market generally generated over $17 billion in revenue in 2019 and probably more in 2020. And the legal tech startup market was about $570 million in 2019. So, I mean, those are very large figures. So what we see in Hong Kong, we saw Luminance. We use that and for due diligence. There's a startup called Fadada. It's a cloud-based electronic signature business based in Shenzhen. And there's quite a few AI startups I've seen in Jiangsu and Zhejiang province. And obviously the legal market in China is enormous. So, that's going to be a huge legal market, which will be probably similar in size to the US's market and quite soon, I would imagine, because of the population in the US. So I think we're users actually more than actual drivers of startups in Hong Kong. It's more likely over the border in Shenzhen, and then we get involved in the funding and the financing of those in Hong Kong. I mean, I would mention that a long time ago when I studied law, I remember that Professor Zander, a quite left-wing professor at the London School of Economics, did an experiment where somebody gave money to fund legal need for sort of legal aid centers for individuals. So we're just hearing about how much need there is from individuals for legal services. And the conclusion is there is no amount that would be enough. There's an infinite demand for legal services if people can get hold of them at a reasonable price. So in terms of the consumer legal market, that is huge. And obviously law firms up to now have been relatively big spenders because legal tech that is tailored for law firms needs to be quite specialized. And law firms are generally willing to pay for that if it actually adds to the services that they can charge to their clients. So, as I agree with what's been said about those two different markets. The other thing that occurs to me is that I think it's correct that you could never entirely replace lawyers. I mean, law isn't like a chess game where there's a board and an infinite number of moves. I mean, there's always the wild card. There's always the judgmental thing with law. Right. So a lot of things are incredibly useful, wonderful, but it's still going to require, in some cases, high-level legal input for large value transactions to take that work and evaluate it and make sure that the client's position is properly and strategically represented. And I think it's going to be very hard to replace that at the end of the day. But that's a sort of top layer of value-added services And everything else probably can be fairly automated beneath that.
Well, there you go. That's the challenge. I mean, rightly pointed out by Julia. Even though it looks good, like China and US being the consumer market for legal tech startups, but still there's the challenges. I think Shivam just pinged me. He wants to share more about the investment landscape in India. Shivam, over to you, please.
Yes. So, as a space, I think, legal tech is now emerging in India. So I think just in the last quarter, we saw around 5 investments in the legal tech space. And, these were startups that were exclusively catering to legal service providers and people, who are accessing legal services. So, one of them called Legality is providing e-signing, e-stamping services. And I think another area where we've seen a, slew of startups come up is, intellectual property filing. I think that's a process that is very standardized. So, I've seen startups in the space where, they'll help you with your trademark filings, your public searches. So there's a startup called Mike Legal in that space. Also, very interestingly, one of the first few unicorns to come out of India called iCertis is actually a provider of a contract management tool. So, I agree with, the statement that it's a sector that's still yet to emerge out of the shadows. But I think recently that's been changing in India.
Do you think this legal tech space is going to take off just like fintech someday, maybe, or not?
So I think I don't think there's a straight answer to that question. But I think what is paramount, and when we evaluate startups, I think what we look at is, how do they collect their data? How much emphasis they place on collection of data? How do they handle the data? So a startup could today be just providing signatory services. But if they're actually, recording all the data, anonymizing it, tomorrow they can do a lot with it. Right? They can enter a space where, we have actually, the AI actually coming into the picture and helping lawyers with their day-to-day workings.
Right.
So I think it can take off, but I think there are a few enablers that are very important.
Got it. Thank you, Shivam, for that. Gary, I'd like to ask you, because you've seen a lot of startups in AI space. What about AI being used in our legal space, like a legal tech startup? Do you see more investments into that space, or that space is still yet to be explored as compared to other tech spaces? Gary, you are on mute.
Yeah, sorry about that. No, I mean, the situation, Sonny, I mean, let's just paint a picture. There are 3,700 plus startups that are providing end-to-end solutions for disputes that need a resolution. So if we look at it today, that's there's been about almost $7 billion invested in over 900 companies. And so what are they doing? They're looking at things like the contract lifecycle management, practice management, SaaS, review and analytics. But think about it. I mean, what is AI all about? AI is about taking data from disparate sources, making sense of it, and helping a lawyer to be able to make better decisions. Well, the data, as we've said, I've said many times, is that increasing every year. So there's 40 zettabytes of data on the planet today, a zettabyte. So if we look at a zettabyte, if we stacked it, CDs on top of one another, you could go 29 times back and forth to the moon with data. And it's growing at 62% per year. Well, the same things happen in the law profession. What is it about? It's finding out where all these cases are everywhere and to be able to make the right kind of decisions. So having an assistant that can aggregate that for you is an incredible thing. So think about it. I mean, this is a heaven. In fact, legal tech is one of the areas that's having some of the most investment. Companies like, or groups like Plug and Play, Y Combinator, Duke Law. I mean, they're looking at areas like contract life management, as I said, legal practice, et cetera. So it is a burgeoning opportunity because it's data rich, and the better decisions, understanding what judge said what at what time, what opinions were rendered, really, really helps. So it is right? It is the, it's the holy grail. So it's exciting from my perspective. And again, a lot of these AI models are transportable models. It's based upon what the training data is, right? So the same model we can use for manufacturing and legal, medicine, et cetera. It's just a matter of taking that AI model and making sure the training's set. So it's a great opportunity. And as we said, this is a global opportunity now. It's changed a lot in the last year. Here we are together from all parts of the world, from Austria, from Hong Kong, from India, from Singapore, Silicon Valley / Florida. We're here together. This has changed. And now the thing is, how do we deal with it? And how do we really come to these challenges? AI helps us to be able to make decisions. And imagine having the capabilities. We've got 19 patents today in AI in EVA, but I can tell you some of the things we've been able to find. Imagine being able to look at documents in different languages, figuring out what opinions have been rendered, and being able to draft a judgment or draft a document based on those opinions across multiple jurisdictions, right? Those capabilities are just starting to come out, and I'm not sure we're ready for them yet, but I can tell you with some of the patents that we have, that capability exists today, right? And we're just the beginning. I'll tell you what, Sunny, I saw this recently and it just blew my mind because I knew it was coming. But imagine technologies that can actually go down through and create. So they created a song in the style of Frank Sinatra, a Christmas song that was driven by artificial intelligence. It created it with his voice, right? Now imagine what that does for the legal environment. Who owns it? I mean, these are new areas of law we're going to have to figure out because, we have systems today. We can actually go down through and create articles, right? Using artificial intelligence that takes information from all over in the style of and publish those articles. In reality, it was created with artificial intelligence. Who owns it? These are new areas that are going to come through, and we've got to figure out over the next couple of years, who does the AI own it? Who's the AI? So it's interesting.
Absolutely. Great insights from Gary. He's very positive and he sees a lot of opportunity in the space, especially application of AI in legal tech startups. So great insights. I'm really excited. I just open up the floor for a few minutes for speakers who have just joined us for the first time. Nicola and Shivam, to an opportunity to ask your fellow panelists any questions, any burning questions that you would have that you'd like to ask anyone on this panel.
Actually, can I jump in and perhaps ask a question to my Indian friends? It seems like India's got the most wonderful opportunity as a common law-based jurisdiction to basically create legal tech and AI and so on, which would be usable and applicable across common law jurisdictions. And I wonder if you guys see this happening, or you think it will happen.
Anyone, please, from India? Sahil, Shrikant, Shivam.
Yeah.
Well, from my side, I'll say that reply is affirmative because indeed, given that attributes of common law element, these things would these things would be portable. And as Shivam pointed out, there have been investments in this sphere in India. Lorato.com, Legistify, and he was naming a couple of other ventures as well. So I believe that it can take place. And Shrikant had also pointed out in the beginning that courts have been changing, courts have been open. Earlier, there was no concept of e-filing. E-filing came up. Then, virtual appearances have become a mode of accepted appearance before the high courts and arbitration tribunals. So yes, and given the kind of influence which India shares, or the type of diplomacy which India shares with other common law countries, especially Singapore and Malaysia, I believe that whatever legal tech developments here happen, they might happen vice versa there in Singapore and Malaysia and other jurisdictions. So it's the different way when it happens in fintech, because in fintech, we are relying on, let's say, Monetary Authority of Singapore's regulations. We are taking guidance from them. But when it comes to legal tech, then I can see it happening vice versa because of the sheer experience and, the tremendous knowledge of the bar and the bench in India.
Yeah, absolutely. And, a lot of Indian judgments are actually very well written, so if there was analysis of your judicial pronouncements and cases and so on, you develop that tech extensively in AI, you could see that being very readily rolled out in other common law jurisdictions.
Absolutely.
And
Shrikant,
Shivam,
yeah,
go ahead.
please. Shrikant, please go ahead. I was actually asking you to share your insights to Julia's
No,
question.
Shivam wanted to speak.
Oh,
Let him
sorry.
complete his thought.
Okay, Shivam, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't see see that.
No, no problem. Just to present an opposing view to, what Sahil said here, I think the biggest challenge in India is, who pays for this technology, right? I think in India, generally legal service providers in large companies, I think, those are cost centers. Those are not resource centers yet. So I think there is, very little incentive for them to adopt technology themselves. And a lot of the work they actually outsource to law firms. And I think at the law firm side, I think there's another challenge there, right? When you're doing hourly billing and your mandates are, done by the hour, right? You're actually, by introducing efficiency and introducing technology, you're reducing the man hours. So I think that's a very, complex challenge to solve. And unlike sectors such as fintech, where there is a huge push from the regulator. So in India, the entire fintech boom has been because of the RBI being an active regulator, coming out with the consent aggregator system, just laying down guidelines for how data is shared between service providers. I
Right.
think in the legal space that is still lacking. So still long.
Right. Okay, so it's the lack of support of the regulatory authority, especially in the legal tech space. Sorry, Shrikant, over to you now.
No, I see legal tech as a space which kind of coexists with a lot of other industries. For example, when you talk about mergers and acquisitions, that is classified as an industry, right? I mean, so legal tech would be the support center for M&A deals that happen. Now we're talking about Bitcoin. We're talking about creation of a new agency in India called IFSCA, so International Financial Centers, commission, which is going to regulate international financial centers in India. So that is
Yeah, and
going to support.
it's just signed up to IOSCO, I think, IFCA, hasn't it? Yeah,
Yes. So my viewpoint is legal tech is going to be the wingman of the main industry over here, which in itself is going to give the power to the legal tech industry as such, right? I can throw the same thing to Shivam as well as to Sahil to say that legal tech has been the most influential thing in your due diligence, as well as a deal evaluation, as well as your a deal identification process. You're right. I mean, it saved a lot of money and cost for you. Yes, it is a cost center, but the question arises in terms of when you compare two cost centers, the finance is a cost center as well as legal is a cost center. The larger the savings that you achieve in one of these cost centers, the more the lesser the unpreferential treatment that you give to a cost center, right? I'm a chartered accountant, so I tend to speak in these languages. Sorry.
I sometimes think that lawyers are probably the worst people to develop legal tech, because we're by nature very conservative in our thinking. And Gary,
Right.
maybe you have comments on this, that actually this is what creates the opportunity for entrepreneurs and people to come in and go, wow, I can transform the business model of parts of this industry.
Yeah, I mean, the situation is, again, I'm a country boy from Pennsylvania, so I always say keep it simple. And I mean, there's a lot of data out there. You need to be able to, whoever has the data can make some of the best decisions. So having AI out there to be able to scan all these documents, to find where there's irregularities, and to raise the flag so you can make a better opinion. It's like a paralegal on steroids. And so, yes, I mean, lawyers are conservatives, doctors are conservative too. I mean, a lot of times they don't want to, take the risk, but the situation is when they start to see capabilities of being able to find things like melanoma better than anybody else, reduces the risk, they start to buy into it. Well, same thing with the law profession, right? So I think this is for you. I mean, all of you, this is a global opportunity now that's unprecedented. And the lawyers that adapt to this challenge, that move forward and understand that there are technologies that can assist you, they're going to win. And it's just coming together. It's just really coagulated from my perspective over the last year, because this whole COVID situation has had to bring people together. I used to go to my attorney's office. I haven't been since March to K&L Gates, right? Out in California. I do everything on Zoom. It's, I used to go, well, let's go to lunch, let's talk, et cetera. It's not like that anymore. And in some ways, I like it a whole lot better because you're much more efficient. So yeah, it's a burgeoning opportunity, Julian, and I encourage the startups to go out and pursue it. And there's incredible startups in India and Singapore that are very, very interesting, but they're also sometimes conservative because they don't know how to go global, right? How do you take it to the next level?
I mean, one area that I do worry about slightly is legal education, because actually, a lot of this contract review is traditionally done by junior lawyers, and it's how they cut their teeth and they learn it. So are they suddenly going to leapfrog to this much higher level of sophistication and analysis? And where's that going to come from? I mean, that's a challenge for legal education as well, I think.
Well,
Right.
The high value part that you're saying about cutting their teeth, you're absolutely right. So how do we address it? Well, we can actually use training tools to be able to help them, guide them along so they actually make better decisions and use them for really high value tasks. I mean, this is what's happening. You just mentioned, Julie, it's happened across the board, because these old robotic process automation and doing these mundane tasks will be able to be done with artificial intelligence in a lot of instances. So you're right. It's something we need to adapt to. So how do we train them to make better lawyers? And
there's a whole legal education tech business, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Startups, there's another one.
Legal education tech. Fantastic. Thank you, Gary and Julia. Anybody, I think Sahil and Nicola both raised hands to pitch in something. Yeah, please, Sahil, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was saying that, Gary is absolutely right in saying that, whosoever is data can make better decisions. And I'll give you an example of Y Combinator and 500 startups, two of the most prominent venture capital funds and, early stage investors. So if you see, they saw lacuna in legal services at that time when they were making investments. Mm-hmm. So they compelled their lawyers, internal in-house counsels, as well as external law firms to develop customized templates. They didn't go with the traditional convertible note route. They didn't go with the warrant, option deed, or equity route. They went for SAFE and KISS, respectively. Why they did that? Because legal field has to keep itself abreast with the technology and the need of the industry and market. So if legal field does not embed all these things, then people will be forced to go the other way. I mean, Shivam was saying that, legal tech would take a lot of time in developing in India. I can tell from my own experience, 90% of the startups in India, they don't engage a lawyer. What they do is they'll simply go to Google, search for a document, and they'll do that. And I'm even talking about startups who are raising Series A funding. From my own experience. But yes, at the same juncture, if they have a better legal tech stuff, a legal tech business which is providing them good services at fair and reasonable prices, they would be very much compelled to go there. Similarly, a law firm which is not being engaged by these ventures or these startups because the rates are very high, that law firm, by using legal tech, can cut down its costs and retain one more client. So you see, there are pros and cons of each and everything here, and law has to keep itself evolving. So legal tech would become an essential part of legal services in future. You see, PayPal dispute resolution, which was developed by Modria, and you see Chittu Nagarajan and David, I can't remember his last name. These guys, they have developed all these AI and algorithms for online dispute resolutions, and they are doing wonderful in most of the e-commerce players.
Great insight, Sahil. I know, because banking has been made accessible to the unbanked population. Why not legal? As per startups can't obviously access because of the high fees. I totally agree. Sahil, Shrikant just raised his hand. Shrikant, over to you.
See, it took about, I'm just going to take 30 seconds. It took about 20 years for the accounting industry to adapt to a more sophisticated. You can hear me, right?
Yeah. Please go ahead.
So it took about 20 years for the accounting industry to adapt from a book ledger based accounting to a more sophisticated ERP, not even ERP, a tally kind of setup, right? Not exactly tally, but at least a computer setup. So I think the pro of this particular legal tech scenario is that you are here for a long run. I mean, this is meant for a long race. At the same time, this is going to take time, so the valuations are going to build in this particular industry, is what I feel.
So all look good. There are opportunities. Barry, Gilliam, Trikant just added on, and Sahil as well. Nicola, shall we take closing remarks, or you wanted to share something, what Julia just mentioned?
Yeah, actually, I observed what Sale observed in India regarding to startups. Like 90% of them, they don't actually go to a lawyer.
Yeah.
They look online. This is true not only in India. This is true worldwide, because basically people, they don't have a good idea of lawyers and legal services, and they know they are expensive. They try to avoid. And in the end, they then have a problem, and so they need it. But still, I've seen a lot of legal tech startups providing these kind of solutions. So like standard contracts for startups, these kind of things. Also, the one I was talking before, Jur, which is a Swiss one, they basically do these, but they implement on this service in which they provide templates for contract, also the dispute resolution mechanism. So actually, this is pretty cool, but I don't know if it really works. We can address it in a different panel.
Yeah, does that cut down the cost of legal firm, like a legal fees?
Do you mean regarding this startup or in general?
When you have these legal tech startups, do they actually help another startup to cut down on the legal fees?
Yeah, they do, because they provide like templates for contracts, and of course it's way more cost effective than hire a lawyer to provide this contract. But of course, then there is also some downside. I mean, the contract is not customized. When you hire a lawyer, you get a kind of personalized legal services based on your needs. If you have a template, you cannot really do that. And also the problem is that if in this startup there is no one with a legal background, they don't really know what they are doing when they try to cut and paste with these templates. One more thing regarding AI, I'm really interested in it because I also met a research group from the University of Bologna. They built this software which goes through terms conditions of major online services like Facebook, Google, whatever. And you all know they are super, super long. And this software, this AI, it's trained to find out and highlight the most unbalanced clauses. This is actually, in my opinion, a really good example of how AI can assist lawyers. And also on this topic, in my opinion, AI will always be an assistance, but not really the decision maker. This is because also you can have a comparison with medicine. IBM has this amazing Watson and is trained to provide medical advice. But in the end, I don't know about you guys, but for me, I would prefer a person to decide on my own medical treatment. Of course, I would like to have an AI to give suggestions, but the decision, also because of liability, but the decision needs to be human.
Great point there, Nicola. I agree to that. I need a doctor, a specialist, not an AI assisted assistant. So as to say, let's quickly take closing remarks, conscious of the time. Shivam, you've attended VCTV for the first time. What's your closing remarks for the topic today? And what's your feedback about VCTV?
So since this is the first session of 2021, I'll start with, a trend that I see coming out this year, right? As Gary mentioned, think big, go global, right? Target industries which are fairly standardized, look beyond just traditional offerings, so we may see something, as niche as underwriting for, third-party litigation funders, startups in that space, for instance. I think there's still a lot of room to maneuver. And in terms of feedback on the session, I really enjoyed the discussion. Lots of learnings from, my fellow panelists who are, I think, a lot more experienced than I am in this industry. So lots of learnings, lots of insights, and thoroughly enjoyed the discussion.
Thank you, Shivam. Same here. We also enjoyed your insights, and we're going to have you back on the panel for this year. Thank you. Sahil, what's your closing remarks for this topic? We know you've spoken a lot, but still a closing remark. And what's your VCTV best moments thus far, I would say?
Well, I think it was the last session, but this one also I've enjoyed because Julia actually pointed out something which she rightly said has not been paid heed to yet. For example, using blockchain and using artificial intelligence to create new laws for thereby enabling legislature and the governments. So that is something, which is very innovative. And, I really hope that someone works towards that. When it comes to legal tech, legal tech would be building block because law has to keep itself abreast with the market changes, market requirements, and everything. So legal tech will become an integral business, but yes, it will not be able to replace lawyers because it can just provide you merely the building blocks. The benefit for lawyers, law firms, and everyone here would be that it will reduce the procedural and other headaches as well as, execution formalities. So it will leave substantial work, the real core intellectual legal work with the lawyers, and leave the remainder everything on artificial intelligence, data analytics, blockchain, smart contracts.
Great.
The field has enormous potential, and I look forward to seeing some amazing legal tech deals this year.
Great. Fantastic, Sal. Thank you. Shrikant, your closing remarks and what are your VCTV best moments?
No, I'm quite positive about this particular industry. I think as a person in this particular industry, we need to do the change. We need to be the change enablers. As far as we can do it, if 2021 turns out to be another year of change enablement because of COVID, I think we have achieved significantly a large amount of our goals with regard to legal tech. My best moment with VCTV has been any moment where we discuss law and investments, and of course, Sunny, any event with you is always good.
Thank you so much, Shrikant. We'd love to have you back on our panels for this year as well. Thank you so much. Nicola, so this is the first time on VCTV. So what's your closing remarks about the topic and how did you find VCTV so far?
It was really interesting, and of course I would like to participate some more. The insights of my colleagues were really, really good, and also there is space for discussion and also for reflection. I want just to say that, in my opinion, legal tech is the future of law industry, as fintech is the future of financial industry. Just believe in innovation.
I like that. Legal tech is the future of legal industry, as fintech is the future of financial industry. Thank you so much. Julia, over to you, please, with your closing remarks, please.
Sure. Well, Shivam, Sahil, Shrikant, Nicola, lovely to meet you and to learn from you, from your insights. Gary, Sonny, lovely to see you again. I think one comment I would make is that I think that governments have a huge role in the law and the judicial system and the legal system, and I think they're quite slow to apply technology to that. They've sort of been dragged kicking and screaming into it by COVID to some extent, having more online hearings. But I think that really, really needs to speed up, and it's probably going to be the private sector that's going to continue to drive this. But just as, for example, in China, there's a digital RMB being trialed, I think governments really should be and probably will be looking at putting much more of the legal system, the judicial system, etc., online. And I think that will also drive innovation in the private sector, just as I think Shivam was saying that perhaps there was a reluctance in the private sector to spend money. Perhaps that will also be a driver. And what I wanted to say about VCTV is that it was hilarious that I was on the final panel of last year and the first one of this year. So thank you very much. And I hope it bodes well for 2021 and that we all have a great year. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. And you've been a great support, VCTV. Thank you so much. And yes, We're going to have you more on VCTV this year. Thank you. Last but not least, Gary, over to you, please.
Yeah, sure. Well, you know, this is a dawn of a new decade, and our lives are going to fundamentally shift in a whole lot of ways. As I said earlier, data is all around us, and fair, just, and right decisions need to be made. And the persons that, groups that are able to harness that data and assist them are going to be at the very top. And it's incredibly important today to focus on artificial intelligence, which is the new electricity. So I love VCTV. I've been on hundreds of VCTV panels, and I've met some of the most incredible people, and many of them are here today. It's amazing, actually. It's the best networking session you could ever have. Startups, I get feedback from startups from Africa, from all over the world, and they love VCTV because it really provided that hand that needed to be held during the darkest times of this pandemic, as we're still going through it today, and gives people a sense of hope and an idea that they can still move forward with their startups and their lives. So, you know, hats off to VCTV for that. So people can reach me, Gary Fowler, LinkedIn, Twitter. I write a lot. I'm writing about quantum computer, teleportation, quantum particles, the quantum internet right now, and a couple books. So again, I'm a country boy from Pennsylvania. So if you need something, reach out. We're looking for incredible startups, AI startups from around the world, and to create more unicorns. So if you got some, we're interested.
Thank you. Great. Thank you so much for those closing remarks, Gary. And thank you so much, all the speakers. It was a great time and a great start to 2021 with the legal tech discussions today that we had on the panel. I'm going to be hosting VCTV every day, starting today, start of the year, on different topics, different speakers, different entrepreneurs as well. We're going to have another session where we're going to have only startups going to be sharing the space here soon. So please stay tuned. And again, audience who are tuned in today, do tune in every day, 8 p.m. Singapore. I'm the host, and I love to see you as well. Thank you so much. And all of you have a great year, great start to the year as well, and a great day. And I hope to see you again on another panel. Until then, take care. Bye.